Beep, 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 beep. Hello, hello, hello. How are we? What have I got for you today? Well, first things first. The new cohort started. Yes! Warrior teachers assemble. So, next start, October, and we're looking at possibly a new Canadian group again in November. So I get up at ridiculous o'clock in the morning. Right? So if you're Canadian out there and you're interested, let me know. You'll see the adverts start going up in the next few days. Other than that, buy me a coffee. Subscribe and share this if you would, please. You can also send me a super thanks if you want to. Anything that you can do to support is, of course, as always, gratefully received. And thank you so much to those of you that do. I know that I don't get time to always say thank you to everybody, so please forgive me if I haven't. But thank you very much anyway. So I've come across something a bit different. About sex. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about sex. Kat Rosenfield is an unheard columnist. The magazine, not the state of being unheard. Hello, I've written something, nobody's heard it. Right? Is an unheard columnist. And she's written an article which I thought was very interesting called "The Sex Coach is Killing Intimacy." It was the title that caught me because it reminded me of very much of a Monty Python sketch from years ago in a film called The Meaning of Life, where John Cleese was teaching sex education to a bunch of kids and he brought his wife in so that he could have sex with her in front of him. He was good. Right? Do you see where the penis is now? It was incredibly funny. Obviously taking on the sort of extremist both sides of the sex education thing, which is, on the right-hand side, only the missionary, on the left-hand side, have sex with anyone, but here's a manual, right? So, but what Kat is talking about is the sex coach. She starts with a filmic reference herself, which I think is quite interesting. There is a scene in the movie Demolition Man where two characters have sex, or rather, what passes for sex in the futurist utopia where the film takes place. The act itself has been replaced by a cybernetic facsimile thereof. Now, sex is done fully clothed from opposite sides of the room, while wearing giant virtual reality helmets that conduct the digitized transference of sexual energies. This is when one of the characters, a time-travelling visitor from the unenlightened past, played by Sylvester Stallone, takes off his helmet and Riley suggests doing it the old-fashioned way. This is very true. It's a great film, Demolition Man. If you remember, they also wiped their bum with seashells, but nobody knew how. Right, so Sandra Bullock recalls, "You, disgusting, you mean she can barely say it without gagging. Fluid transfer." This scene isn't exactly pivotal to the movie, but with time it's come to have some significance. Rampant exchange of body fluids was one of the major reasons for the downfall of society, Sandra Bullock says, explaining that the practice, which includes not only sex but kissing, has been outlawed in the name of safety. In our future, human touch has been deemed a luxury no enlightened society can afford. Obviously, our own attempts at social engineering have not reached that point of outlawing physical contact, although the height of the COVID pandemic brought us remarkably and sometimes hilariously close. Remember when a Canadian Centre for Disease Control recommended that couples have sex through glory holes to avoid breathing on each other? And yet that instinct towards safetyism is one to which human beings have always been susceptible, and one that's visible today in our ongoing attempts to streamline, organise, automate and make frictionless all the parts of life that used to be messy. The vacuum left by the decline of old-fashioned dating and relationshiping, the kind that involved meeting someone in person and experiencing the exciting chemical process known as hitting it off, has been filled by a fair amount of explicitly antisocial behaviour, as people eschew or even fear the possibility of making a connection without the intermediary of the screen. This is a fascinating piece, folks, right? So what is going on there with us eschewing the idea of dating stuff like Tinder and Grindr and Growler and, all these other weird things that people can do, for those that like feet or smelling rubber, Meanwhile, the lure of the online world and its peculiar system of rewards has upended the etiquette surrounding romantic entanglements, particularly when it comes to being gracious with and about rejection. It is not frowned upon, for instance, to publicly share and mock the awkward messages men send to hopeful matches on dating apps. The more we delegate to the apps and the algorithms, the more we swipe and tap our screens, the less we were actually touching anything else, including each other. In lieu of connection, what we have increasingly are services which offer a safe, controlled facsimile of the real thing. A lot of these are also online. There are the cam girls who perform for faceless crowds of observers, all competing for their attention through donations. There are the OnlyFans performers who offer the illusion of an intimate online connection in exchange for cash. There are virtual chatbots who will roleplay as your girlfriend and talk to you for hours. Some of them are even AI clones of real people. But most interesting and most controversial are the services that simulate intimacy face to face and skin to skin. In the past, a person aching to be touched by another human being would make do with massage or having a stranger shampoo their hair. Now there's a booming cottage industry of professional cuddlers who will hold you or just hold your hand for about $100 an hour. One recently profiled in the New Yorker has a menu of 80 different positions to choose from and says that the country is suffering from an epidemic of skin hunger in the wake of the pandemic. He does, however, skirt the question of whether said hunger can truly be satisfied by this sort of transactional intimacy. All he knows is his clients keep coming back. A professional cuddle is safe and certified, but also explicitly non-sexual for those who want more, who desire the intimacy but not the risk or vulnerability or self-doubt of a sexual relationship. There's a whole new category of sex therapists. One who will not only discuss the physical act of love, but actually do it with you. At least sometimes, at least for a while. Their patients are people who struggle with physical intimacy, perhaps due to disability, military injury, or gender transition. They call themselves surrogate partners. A New York Times article about the practice is at pains to explain that they are not prostitutes, but nor are they just therapists. What they offer is something like psychology with a dash of sex work, with elements of self-improvement and skill building. Is it? To me, they seem like a sort of sexual sensei, the equivalent of a fencing coach who has to spar with his client to help them improve their game, but also the word surrogate means substitute or replacement, and a central tenet of these relationships is that they'll eventually end, that the surrogate partner will be replaced by a real one. Here there seems to be something of a catch-22. How well do the teachings of a paid sexual sensei translate in real-world relationships? By the time you've hired one of these therapists to teach you how to have a normal sex life, don't you sort of definitionally not have one? When you find a real partner, do you tell them about the sex therapy you had, as you might discuss your sexual history, or keep it to yourself, as you might the intricacies of your medical one? But the question of whether surrogate partners are effective is less interesting than the question of how they came to exist. What societal void are they filling? Obviously, there's always been a market for people who are willing to trade sex for money. But again, these are not prostitutes. As one of the profiled therapists notes, sex workers do not generally require you to attend months of therapy before sleeping with you. Their appeal, their purpose might be something else. Maybe it's this. They make formal and transactional what is by nature unpredictable and messy. A surrogate partner will never ghost you, never blindside you with its not you, it's me breakup sessions. The New York Times notes the New York Times notes these sessions are typically held weekly in 1 or 2 hour meetings until all three, that is the client, referring therapist and surrogate, agree that the therapy is complete. In this way, the surrogate partners seem to be a product of a broad cultural desire to organise every emotionally risky endeavour into a rules-based framework that makes it safe. From referring the conflicts of children during their parent-organised playdates to making spontaneous flirtation taboo. I didn't consent to being asked out. Brackets, close brackets. We're not quite at the point of finding the unbridled human experience revolting or trying to make it illegal. But there does seem to be an emerging consensus that fumbling around in the sexual realm, be it literally or figuratively, is dangerous. This is a very interesting article. I've not read it all because I want you to go and appreciate the article on Unheard for yourself so that you can read it fully with a cup of coffee. We are deeply conflicted about sex right now, I think, and I feel I fear that has come from the left. And the reason that I say that I fear it's come from the left is because when it comes to, if you go as extreme right as you can, it's, in marriage, mystery position, don't frighten the horses. Right? That's the right side. Nobody's saying that anymore. We've got a free-for-all in most cases. That very article says that there's a free-for-all. But the problem with the left is the controlling element. What I've said before about if, sleep with who you want, but here's your manual. Here's a manual on how to do it. We'll make it safe so you can do it. There's something Brave New World about all this, isn't there? Aldous Huxley. Do you remember? Where the children had prescribed sex play. It's all a bit bloody creepy to me. So my suggestion is to anybody who finds themselves in that situation is to get a haircut, get a new jumper and get out more. Because there will come a time when nobody wants you. Get your head around that. Right? So when you're young, you should be enjoying yourself. You shouldn't be worrying too much. But unfortunately, with a lot of the nonsense that's gone on in the past, it seems to me that does seem easier, doesn't it? You can hire someone, or you can do it online. There's no danger there. But on the other hand, if there's no danger, where's the thrill? There should be a little bit of danger. Go and read the article and let me know what you think in the comments. I think this is very much about control. I think there's something dreadfully left about it. And I think that this is the sort of thing that the state should best stay out of as much as possible. And that when people are coming together to say, what I'll do is I'll give you therapy, but I'll also sleep with you, is essentially we're harvesting the human experience to A, make them think that they're too weak to live their life, and B, to make money. And to control. That's what's going on. Go and have a look. Great article. Thank you very much indeed for that article. And I'll see you soon. Go and let me know what you think. Bye.